What if I told you that the moment when you feel like giving up is actually the exact moment when you're closest to your breakthrough? That the overwhelming urge to quit, the exhaustion that seems unbearable, and the obstacles that appear insurmountable are not signs of failure, but rather the universe's final test before handing you everything you've been working toward. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Has this ever happened to you? You've been pushing toward a goal for months, maybe even years, pouring your heart, soul, and every ounce of energy into your dreams, only to reach a point where everything seems to crumble around you. The challenges multiply, the setbacks feel crushing, and that voice in your head whispers, maybe it's time to give up. Maybe this isn't meant for you. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you view those moments of despair. The great spiritual teacher, Emmet Fox, understood something that most people never realize. There's a hidden law operating in the universe, a final examination that every successful person must pass before they can claim their victory. Think about this for a moment. Why does it seem that just when you're about to achieve something significant, life throws its biggest curveballs at you? Why do the most successful entrepreneurs face their darkest moments right before their companies take off? Why do athletes often struggle with their worst performances just before breaking their personal records? This isn't coincidence, and it's certainly not bad luck. Emmet Fox shared a powerful story that illustrates this principle perfectly. The story of a man who spent months excavating, searching desperately for gold. Day after day, he dug deeper, following every lead, convinced that treasure lay just beneath the surface. But after exhausting his resources and his hope, he made a decision that would haunt him forever. He gave up. He sold his equipment, his land, and walked away from his dream, defeated and broken. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. The man who purchased that worthless land did something the original prospector didn't think to do. He brought in an expert. After a brief analysis, the geologist delivered news that would make your heart sink. Keep digging just 3 more feet. 3 feet. That's all that separated the first man from unimaginable wealth. What you're about to discover might surprise you, but this story isn't really about gold mining at all. It's about you, about me, about every person who has ever stood at the crossroads between giving up and pushing through. How many times in your life have you been just 3 steps away from your breakthrough without even knowing it? How many dreams have you abandoned when you were actually standing on the threshold of success? The truth is, there's something profound happening in those moments when everything feels impossible. And understanding this hidden principle could be the difference between a life of regret and a life of extraordinary achievement. The profound truth behind this 3 feet from gold revelation goes much deeper than most people realize. You see, that final resistance you're experiencing right now isn't some cosmic punishment or sign that you're on the wrong path. It's actually the universe's way of asking you a fundamental question. Do you really want this, or do you only want it when it's comfortable and easy? Think about it this way. Imagine if success came effortlessly to everyone who simply wished for it. The world would be flooded with people who achieved their dreams without ever developing the character, resilience, or wisdom necessary to handle that success responsibly. But the universe operates with a different kind of intelligence. It understands that the journey toward your goals isn't just about reaching a destination. It's about who you become along the way. Emmet Fox recognized this pattern in every successful person he studied. Each one had reached a critical moment where their logical mind screamed at them to quit, where every rational calculation suggested that continuing was foolish, where friends and family urged them to be realistic and give up their seemingly impossible dreams. Yet something deeper than logic kept them moving forward. This is where the real transformation happens. in that space between your mind's surrender and your heart's persistence. Your mind is designed to protect you, to keep you safe, to calculate risks and probabilities. It's constantly analyzing data, comparing your current situation to past experiences, and often concluding that the odds are stacked against you. And honestly, your mind isn't wrong in its calculations. The logical part of you has every reason to suggest that you should quit. But here's what's absolutely fascinating about human potential. While your mind is busy calculating reasons to give up, your heart operates on an entirely different frequency. Your heart doesn't negotiate with spreadsheets or bow to statistics. It doesn't care about the opinions of people who have never attempted what you're attempting. Your heart simply knows what it loves, what it believes in, and what it refuses to let go of, regardless of how dark things appear. If you're someone who craves this level of depth, who wants to dive beneath the surface of ordinary self-help into the profound principles that actually create lasting change, then this channel is designed for you. Hit that subscribe button and become part of a community that's committed to real transformation, not just temporary motivation. Every person who has achieved something extraordinary has experienced this internal battle. There's always a moment when the mind and heart seem to be at war with each other. The mind presents compelling arguments for why you should stop, while something deeper, call it intuition, call it faith, call it your authentic self, whispers that magical phrase, "Try once more." The people who ultimately break through aren't necessarily the most talented, the most educated, or the most well-connected. They're simply the ones who learn to listen to that deeper voice when everything around them suggested they should quit. They discovered that persistence isn't about having endless motivation or supernatural confidence. It's about developing the ability to take one more step, make one more attempt, hold on for one more day, even when, especially when, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This creates a fascinating paradox in the journey towards success. The very moment when you feel most defeated, most exhausted, most convinced that you should throw in the towel, is often the precise moment when you're actually closest to your breakthrough. It's as if the universe saves its final test for when you're running on empty, when you have nothing left but pure determination. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because understanding the mechanics of how this internal transformation actually works can completely change your relationship with challenges and setbacks. There's a hidden process happening behind the scenes of every success story, a psychological shift that occurs when someone moves from being merely motivated to becoming absolutely unstoppable. Write in the comments, "My heart is stronger than my mind." This psychological shift I mentioned reveals one of the most critical errors that derails people just when they're on the verge of their biggest breakthroughs. Picture this scenario. You've been working towards something for months, maybe years. You've invested time, energy, resources, and emotional capital. Then suddenly, right when you're closest to success, your rational mind kicks into overdrive, flooding you with doubts and demanding guarantees that simply don't exist. Your mind starts presenting what seems like perfectly logical arguments. What if this doesn't work out? Maybe you should cut your losses now. Look at all the evidence suggesting this won't succeed. And here's the trap. These thoughts feel so reasonable, so protective, so sensible that most people actually listen to them. They mistake this mental chatter for wisdom, when in reality, it's often the very thing that destroys their dreams just moments before those dreams would have become reality. Emmet Fox understood that your mind's primary job isn't to help you achieve extraordinary things. It's to keep you safe and comfortable. Your mind craves certainty, predictability, and guarantees. It wants you to make decisions based on what it can calculate and control. But here's the fascinating contradiction. Success, real transformational success, rarely comes with guarantees. It requires you to step into the unknown, to act on faith rather than certainty, to move forward despite not having all the answers. You simply cannot reason your way to extraordinary achievement. Logic will always find reasons why something won't work, why the odds are against you, why you should choose the safer path. This creates an impossible situation if you're trying to use your rational mind as the primary driver of your decisions. You end up paralyzed, waiting for proof that success is guaranteed before you're willing to take the necessary risks. What separates those who break through from those who remain stuck isn't superior intelligence or better circumstances. It's the development of what Emmet Fox called burning desire. And this is where most people completely misunderstand what it takes to achieve their goals. They think they need more motivation, more inspiration, more energy. But motivation is external and temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. What you actually need is something much deeper and more sustainable. Burning desire isn't a casual wish or a passing hope. It's not the kind of wanting that says, "It would be nice if this happened." True burning desire is a consuming internal fire that makes not achieving your goal feel more painful than any struggle you might face in pursuing it. It's an inner conviction so strong that you genuinely feel like you have no choice but to succeed. It's when your goal transforms from something you want into something you must have, not for external validation or comfort, but because it's become part of your very identity. This creates a fascinating transformation in how you approach challenges. When you're operating from shallow wanting, every obstacle feels like evidence that you should quit. But when you're driven by burning desire, obstacles become fuel for your fire. Setbacks become opportunities to prove your commitment. Criticism becomes irrelevant noise. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "How can I make this work?" The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't those who never feel fear or doubt. They're the ones who have developed a desire so intense that it burns through fear. They've connected with something deeper than surface-level motivation. They've found their non-negotiable reason, their must-have outcome, their absolute conviction that this path is not just what they want, but who they are. But here's what's truly remarkable about this burning desire. It doesn't just change how you feel about your goals. It actually changes how you perceive reality itself. When your desire reaches that level of intensity, you start noticing opportunities that were always there but were previously invisible to you. Connections appear where you once saw only obstacles. Resources manifest in ways that seem almost magical, but are actually the result of your heightened awareness and unwavering focus. Now let me share with you exactly how this burning desire develops and why most people never experience it, because understanding this distinction could be the difference between spending your life wondering, "What if?" and actually living the reality you've always dreamed of. Write in the comments, "I choose burning desire over shallow wanting." The development of burning desire actually reveals something profound about human nature that most people never discover. You see, when someone tells me they're exhausted, burned out, or ready to give up, I've learned to ask a very specific question. What is your real reason for pursuing this goal? And here's what I've discovered in countless conversations. People aren't actually tired from the work itself. They're emotionally drained because they've lost connection with their authentic motivation. Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how you can work for hours on something you're genuinely passionate about without feeling depleted? How children can play intensely for an entire day and still have energy left over? That's because when you're connected to something that truly matters to you, energy flows naturally. But when you're operating from shallow motivations, trying to impress others, chasing external validation, or pursuing goals that don't align with your core values, every task feels like pushing a boulder uphill. This is where most people get trapped in what I call the motivation treadmill. They're constantly seeking external sources of energy to keep them going because they've never connected with their internal power source. They consume motivational content, attend seminars, read books, hoping that somehow the next piece of inspiration will finally give them the sustained drive they need. But external motivation is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. It requires constant refilling and never actually solves the underlying problem. The transformation happens when you dig deeper than surface-level desires and connect with your profound why. This isn't about finding some noble-sounding purpose to impress others. It's about discovering what genuinely moves you, what you care about so deeply that pursuing it feels less like work and more like expressing your authentic self. Maybe it's about proving to yourself that you can overcome the limitations others placed on you. Perhaps it's about creating a better life for your family or contributing something meaningful to the world. The specific purpose matters less than the emotional truth behind it. When you reconnect with this deeper motivation, something almost magical occurs. Energy that seemed depleted suddenly returns. Passion that had been dormant reawakens. Tasks that felt overwhelming become manageable. This isn't positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is accessing the renewable energy source that exists within every human being, but that most people never learn to tap into consistently. But here's where this gets really fascinating, and it's something Emmet Fox understood about the invisible mechanics of achievement. Your mind operates like a sophisticated magnet, constantly attracting circumstances, people, and opportunities that match your dominant thoughts and emotions. When you're thinking about something frequently and with strong emotion, whether positive or negative, you literally begin to magnetize experiences that align with those mental patterns. Most people experience this phenomenon in reverse. They focus on what they don't want, what they're afraid of, what's going wrong in their lives, and then wonder why they keep attracting more of the same negative experiences. But when you're operating from authentic purpose and burning desire, your mind becomes a magnet for possibilities. You start noticing opportunities that were always present but previously invisible to you. This is why some people seem to have incredible luck while others struggle with constant setbacks. It's not actually about luck, it's about the magnetic field you're creating with your thoughts and emotions. When your desire is superficial, your magnetic field is weak and inconsistent. But when you're driven by genuine purpose, that field becomes incredibly powerful and focused. The tragedy is that most people stop their efforts just when this magnetic effect is beginning to activate. They've been working toward their goals with moderate desire, seeing modest results, and then they quit right when their consistent focus was about to create a breakthrough. It's like spending months building momentum on a bicycle and then stopping to rest just before reaching the hill's peak. Now, let me reveal to you the specific signs that indicate your magnetic field is activating and why recognizing these signals could prevent you from making the most costly mistake of your journey. Write in the comments, "I'm reconnecting with my true purpose." These signals that your magnetic field is activating often appear in ways that most people completely misinterpret. Here's what's truly remarkable about this process. The very moment when you feel most tempted to give up is usually the exact moment when your sustained efforts are about to transform from invisible preparation into visible results. It's like watching water heat up. Nothing seems to be happening for the longest time, and then suddenly, at exactly the right temperature, everything changes. Emmet Fox understood that persistence isn't just about working hard or being stubborn. True persistence is the sustained effort necessary to induce unshakable faith and transform your deepest desires into their physical equivalent. This is a process that operates on both practical and metaphysical levels. On the practical side, consistent effort builds skills, creates connections, and positions you for opportunities. But on the deeper level, sustained effort actually rewires your nervous system and changes your relationship with uncertainty. When you persist through challenges without immediate rewards, you're essentially training yourself to operate from faith rather than evidence. You're developing the rare ability to take action based on your vision of the future rather than your current circumstances. This is an incredibly valuable skill because most people can only maintain effort when they can see clear progress. But the greatest achievements often require you to keep moving forward during periods when progress is invisible. Think about this from a different angle. Every breakthrough you've ever experienced in your life was preceded by a period of seeming stagnation. Whether it was learning to ride a bike, mastering a skill, or building a relationship, there was always a phase where you felt like you weren't making progress, followed by a sudden shift where everything clicked into place. This pattern isn't coincidental. It's how human development actually works. The challenge is that our impatient minds demand constant evidence that our efforts are working. We want to see linear progress, clear milestones, and predictable timelines. But reality rarely operates according to our mental schedules. Success tends to compound invisibly for long periods before suddenly becoming obvious to everyone, including ourselves. It's like planting seeds in dark soil. You can't see the intricate root system developing underground, but that hidden growth is what eventually produces the visible harvest. This creates what I call the breakthrough paradox. The moment when you're closest to your goal is often the moment when it feels furthest away. You've been working consistently, investing your time and energy, yet your current reality doesn't seem to reflect your efforts. Your logical mind starts calculating the cost-benefit ratio and questioning whether continued effort makes sense. Friends and family might express concern about your obsession or suggest that it's time to be more realistic. This is precisely when most people make the tragic decision to abandon their dreams. They interpret this period of uncertainty as evidence that their approach isn't working, when in reality it's often a sign that they're entering the final phase before their breakthrough. They're like the gold prospector we discussed earlier, unaware that they're just 3 feet away from striking it rich. If something inside you lit up while listening to this, if you felt that deep recognition that comes when truth resonates with your soul, a like on this video means the world to me. It tells me we're connected on this path of transformation and helps others who need to hear this message find their way here too. What happens during this crucial period is a battle between two different ways of knowing. Your analytical mind, which operates on logic and evidence, is telling you to quit because it can't see sufficient proof that your efforts will pay off. But your soul, which operates on deeper wisdom, is asking you to trust the process even when you can't understand it. Your soul recognizes patterns that your mind can't calculate, and it knows that every significant achievement requires passing through this valley of uncertainty. The people who ultimately succeed are those who learn to listen to this deeper knowing, especially during the moments when their logical mind is screaming at them to stop. They develop what might be called breakthrough faith, the ability to maintain their efforts and energy even when external evidence suggests that giving up would be the sensible choice. Now I want to explore with you the specific mental shifts that occur when someone develops this breakthrough faith, because understanding these internal changes can help you recognize when you're actually much closer to success than your current circumstances might suggest. Write in the comments, "I trust the invisible process." These mental shifts reveal something that might be difficult to accept, but is absolutely crucial to understand. Your greatest enemy in achieving success isn't your circumstances, your competition, or even your lack of resources. Your greatest adversary lives inside your own mind, and it's been sabotaging your dreams in ways so subtle that you probably haven't even noticed it happening. Think about this honestly for a moment. How many times have you been your own worst enemy? How many opportunities have you talked yourself out of before anyone else even had a chance to say no? How many times have you convinced yourself that you're not ready, not qualified, not deserving, or that the timing isn't right? The most devastating defeats in life aren't inflicted by external forces. They're self-inflicted wounds that happen when we allow our own mental programming to work against us. This internal sabotage operates through what I call the hidden dialogue, that constant stream of commentary running in the background of your consciousness. Most people are completely unaware of this dialogue, yet it's one of the most powerful forces shaping their reality. Every single day, you're having thousands of micro-conversations with yourself, and the tone and content of these conversations are literally programming your subconscious mind for either success or failure. Emmet Fox understood something that modern neuroscience is now confirming. Your thoughts aren't just abstract mental events, they're actually creative forces that shape your physical reality. When you repeatedly think certain thoughts with emotion and conviction, you're essentially giving direct orders to your subconscious mind. And here's what's fascinating. Your subconscious doesn't judge whether these orders are beneficial or harmful. It simply follows them with mechanical precision. This means that every time you tell yourself, "I can't do this," "I'm not good enough," or "this will never work," you're programming your subconscious to look for evidence that supports these beliefs. Your mind becomes a detective, searching for proof that you're right about your limitations. It will filter out opportunities, minimize your successes, and magnify your setbacks, all in service of confirming the mental program you've installed. But here's the incredible revelation. If your mind can be programmed for failure, it can just as easily be reprogrammed for success. The same mechanism that's been working against you can be redirected to work in your favor. This isn't about positive thinking or affirmations. This is about understanding that your internal dialogue is literally the operating system of your life, and like any operating system, it can be updated and improved. The transformation begins when you realize that you have the power to choose what thoughts you entertain and which ones you reject. Most people think they're victims of their thoughts, randomly experiencing whatever mental content happens to arise. But successful people understand that they can become the director of their mental movie rather than just a passive viewer. This requires developing what I call mental sovereignty, the ability to observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. When you catch yourself engaging in self-defeating internal dialogue, you can consciously choose to redirect that conversation towards something more empowering. Instead of saying, "I always mess things up," you can train yourself to say, "I'm learning and improving with each experience." Instead of, "This is too hard," you can shift to, "I'm developing the skills I need to handle this challenge." The key is understanding that this isn't about forcing yourself to think unrealistically positive thoughts. It's about choosing thoughts that serve your goals rather than undermine them. It's about becoming conscious of the fact that every thought you think is either building the reality you want or tearing it down. There's no neutral ground when it comes to the power of your mental programming. What makes this process so powerful is that when you change your internal dialogue, you automatically begin to notice different possibilities in your external world. Opportunities that were always there become visible. Solutions that seemed impossible start to emerge. People respond to you differently because you're showing up with a different energy and expectation. Now let me share with you the specific techniques that can help you identify and reprogram the most destructive patterns in your mental programming. Because once you master this internal transformation, external success becomes not just possible but inevitable. Write in the comments, "I am reprogramming my inner dialogue." The specific techniques for mastering this internal transformation begin with understanding a profound truth that Emmet Fox discovered through years of studying human potential. Faith isn't some mystical quality that you either have or don't have. Faith is actually a trainable state of mind that can be deliberately induced through what he called auto-suggestion. This means you can literally install new beliefs in your subconscious mind, the same way you might install new software on your computer. Most people think that beliefs are fixed aspects of their personality, inherited from their upbringing, or formed through past experiences. But this is one of the most limiting misconceptions about human psychology. Your beliefs are actually just mental habits, patterns of thinking that have been reinforced through repetition. And like any habit, they can be changed through conscious, deliberate practice. The process works because your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between thoughts that arise naturally and thoughts that you consciously choose to think. When you repeatedly feed your mind specific ideas with emotion and conviction, those ideas eventually become automatic beliefs that shape how you perceive and respond to the world around you. Here's what's truly liberating about this understanding: that inner enemy we discussed, the voice that tells you you're not capable, not worthy, not ready, isn't actually real until you give it power by feeding it with your attention and belief. It's like a fire that can only continue burning if you keep adding fuel. The moment you stop feeding those destructive thoughts with your mental energy and start consciously choosing more empowering beliefs, that inner enemy begins to starve and weaken. This is where the real transformation happens, and it's something most people never fully grasp. You have the ability to become the conscious architect of your own belief system. Instead of being at the mercy of random thoughts or inherited limitations, you can deliberately choose what ideas to cultivate in your mind. You can decide to feed thoughts of capability instead of inadequacy, thoughts of abundance instead of scarcity, thoughts of possibility instead of limitation. But here's where this gets really profound, and it's something that can completely revolutionize how you think about your potential. Every single thought you think is essentially a seed being planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Just like seeds in a garden, these mental seeds will eventually germinate and produce fruit in your external reality. The thoughts you plant today become the experiences you harvest tomorrow. I share content like this regularly, the kind of insights that don't just inspire you for a day, but fundamentally shift how you see yourself and your potential. If you want to continue exploring these life-changing principles, together, subscribe and join this journey of awakening to your true power. Look around at everything in your current environment, your home, your relationships, your career, your financial situation. All of it started as thoughts in someone's mind. The chair you're sitting on was once just an idea in a designer's imagination. The technology you're using to watch this was conceived in the mind of an inventor. The very room you're in existed first as a vision in an architect's consciousness before it became physical reality. This principle applies to your personal reality with the same precision. Your current circumstances aren't random events that happen to you. They're the physical manifestation of the dominant thoughts and beliefs you've been holding in your mind, often unconsciously, over months and years. If you want to change what you're experiencing in your external world, you must first change what you're cultivating in your internal world. The challenge is that most people plant mental seeds randomly and unconsciously. They think about what they fear, what they lack, what's going wrong, and then wonder why their external reality reflects those negative patterns. They're essentially planting weeds in their mental garden and then being surprised when their life doesn't produce the beautiful harvest they desire. But when you understand that you can consciously choose what seeds to plant in your mind, everything changes. You realize that every moment is an opportunity to cultivate thoughts that will eventually manifest as positive experiences. You begin to guard your mental space like a careful gardener, protecting it from destructive influences and deliberately planting only the ideas that align with your highest vision for your life. Now, I want to explore with you the specific process of how these mental seeds actually transform into physical reality, because understanding this mechanism can help you accelerate your results and avoid the common mistakes that keep most people stuck in cycles of unfulfilled potential. Write in the comments, I choose my thoughts consciously. The specific process of how these mental seeds transform into physical reality operates through a mechanism that's both scientifically observable and practically applicable. Your mind functions like the most fertile garden imaginable, capable of growing absolutely anything you choose to plant there. But here's the crucial distinction that most people miss. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Your external reality isn't responding to your wishes or hopes. It's responding to your dominant mental and emotional state. This is why visualization and positive thinking often fail for people who approach them superficially. They spend a few minutes imagining their ideal life, while the remaining 23 hours and 50 minutes of their day are filled with thoughts that contradict those brief moments of positive focus. It's like planting one beautiful flower in a garden, overrun with weeds, and expecting that single flower to transform the entire landscape. The transformation happens when you understand that your subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming during specific windows of opportunity, particularly in those precious moments just before you fall asleep. This is when your conscious mind begins to relax its guard, and your deeper mind becomes extraordinarily receptive to whatever images, thoughts, and emotions you choose to feed it. Instead of falling asleep reviewing your problems, worrying about tomorrow's challenges, or replaying the day's frustrations, you can use this powerful window to plant exactly the mental seeds you want to grow. When you visualize your ideal life with genuine emotion, not just seeing it, but feeling it as if it were already your reality, you're essentially programming your subconscious to work on manifesting that vision while you sleep. This isn't wishful thinking or fantasy, it's deliberate mental conditioning. Your subconscious mind processes these emotionally charged images as instructions, and it begins to work around the clock to align your perceptions, decisions, and actions with the reality you've been consistently visualizing. You start noticing opportunities that support your vision, making choices that move you toward your goals, and developing the skills and connections necessary to transform your mental pictures into physical experiences. But protecting this mental garden requires constant vigilance, because destructive thoughts are like weeds. They grow quickly, spread rapidly, and can choke out the positive seeds you're trying to cultivate. Thoughts of scarcity, defeat, and limitation are particularly toxic because they multiply exponentially once they take root in your consciousness. One doubt can spiral into a pattern of doubt. One fear can create a habit of fearful thinking. One "I can't" can program your mind to look for evidence of everything you supposedly can't do. This is where developing mental discipline becomes absolutely crucial. When you catch your mind defaulting to its old patterns, saying things like, "This is too difficult," or "I'm not capable of this," you must immediately interrupt that pattern and consciously redirect your thoughts towards something more empowering. Instead of "this is difficult," you train yourself to think, "I'm learning and advancing through this challenge." Instead of "I'm not capable," you choose, "I'm developing exactly the capabilities I need." This might sound simplistic, but the cumulative effect of this practice is profound. Each time you consciously choose an empowering thought over a limiting one, you're strengthening new neural pathways in your brain while weakening the old destructive patterns. You're literally rewiring your mind for success instead of failure, for possibility instead of limitation, for abundance instead of scarcity. What makes this process so powerful is that your external world begins to shift in response to these internal changes, often in ways that seem almost magical, but are actually the natural result of your transformed mental state. When you consistently think and feel like someone who deserves success, you automatically begin to behave like that person, make decisions like that person, and attract experiences that confirm your new self-image. Now, I want to reveal to you the most critical timing element in this entire process, because Understanding when these mental seeds actually germinate and why most people abandon their efforts just before their breakthrough can mean the difference between lifelong frustration and extraordinary achievement. Write in the comments, "I guard my mental garden carefully." The critical timing element that determines whether your mental seeds will germinate into tangible success revolves around what Emmet Fox identified as the most dangerous moment in any achievement journey: the final test, before the miracle. This is the precise point where most people abandon their dreams, not because they lack ability or potential, but because they misinterpret the intensity of this final phase as evidence that they should quit. Picture this scenario. You've been consistently planting positive mental seeds, visualizing your goals, maintaining faith despite obstacles, and working toward your dreams with dedication. Then suddenly, everything seems to intensify. The challenges become more frequent. The setbacks feel more significant. The criticism grows louder, and your support system might even start questioning your judgment. Your bank account isn't reflecting your efforts. Opportunities seem to be drying up, and that voice in your head grows more insistent that it's time to be realistic and give up. This is the threshold that separates those who achieve extraordinary things from those who settle for ordinary lives. Most people interpret this intensification as a sign that they're on the wrong path, when in reality, it's often the clearest signal that they're approaching their breakthrough. It's like the moment in childbirth when the contractions are most intense. That's not when you stop. That's when you know the birth is imminent. Emmet Fox observed this pattern repeatedly in the lives of successful people. The ones who ultimately achieved their grandest visions were those who found a way to persist through this crucial period when everything seemed to be working against them. They developed the rare ability to maintain their vision and continue their efforts, even when external evidence suggested that their approach wasn't working. What makes this phase so challenging is that it tests not just your actions, but your character. It's easy to maintain positive thoughts when things are going well, but can you hold on to your vision when you're facing rejection, criticism, and apparent failure? Can you continue to plant mental seeds of success when your current reality seems to mock those efforts? This is where your invisible work becomes absolutely crucial. The invisible work, those mental battles you fight in solitude, the decisions you make when no one is watching, the thoughts you choose when you're discouraged, the faith you maintain despite lack of evidence. This work is actually building your fortune even when you can't see it happening. Every time you choose an empowering thought over a limiting one, every time you visualize success instead of dwelling on current problems, every time you take one more action toward your goal when you don't feel like it, you're making deposits in an invisible account that will eventually pay massive dividends. But here's the tragedy. Most people are making these invisible deposits faithfully for months or even years, building up tremendous momentum beneath the surface, and then they abandon their efforts just when that accumulation is about to transform into visible results. They're like someone who stops digging for water just before hitting the underground spring, or like a farmer who plants seeds meticulously but then abandons the field right before harvest season. The reason this happens is that we live in a culture that has conditioned us to expect immediate, linear progress. We want to see steady advancement, clear milestones, and predictable timelines. But the most significant achievements often follow a different pattern. Long periods of invisible preparation followed by sudden, dramatic breakthrough. Your mental seeds don't germinate on your schedule. They germinate when the conditions are exactly right, and that timing often appears to be just when you're most tempted to give up. This creates a fascinating paradox in personal development. The very moment when you feel most justified in quitting, when logic suggests that continued effort is foolish, is often the moment when your breakthrough is closest. It's as if the universe saves its final exam for when you're running on empty, when you have nothing left but pure determination and faith. Now, I want to explore with you the specific internal shifts that occur when someone successfully navigates this final test, because recognizing these shifts can help you maintain your resolve during your own crucial moments and ultimately claim the success that's been building invisibly in your life. Write in the comments, "I trust my invisible progress." The specific internal shifts that occur when someone successfully navigates this final test reveal something profound about how the universe actually operates. There's a silent law at work in our reality that most people never discover because they give up before it has a chance to demonstrate its power. This law responds not to casual wishes or half-hearted attempts, but to what Emmet Fox called absolute insistence, the kind of unwavering determination that refuses to accept no as a final answer. Think about how a child approaches something they really want. They don't ask once and then politely accept rejection. They ask again and again and again. They try different approaches, different timing, different appeals. They persist with such natural conviction that eventually most adults find it easier to say yes than to continue resisting. The child doesn't doubt their worthiness to receive what they want. They simply keep insisting until reality rearranges itself to accommodate their desire. This is the exact energy that the universe responds to in adults. But most of us have been conditioned out of this natural persistence. We've been taught to be realistic, to accept limitations, to not push too hard. We ask for what we want once or twice, and when we don't see immediate results, we interpret that as a message that we should give up. But the universe actually operates more like that patient adult dealing with the persistent child. It eventually yields to those who refuse to stop asking. What makes this law so powerful is that it seems to bend the normal rules of cause and effect. When your desire reaches a certain level of intensity and your insistence becomes truly unwavering, opportunities begin to appear that shouldn't logically exist. People show up in your life who can help you in ways you never expected. Resources become available from unexpected sources. Solutions emerge for problems that seemed impossible to solve. It's as if your persistent energy creates a magnetic field so strong that reality itself has no choice but to reorganize around your intention. But here's where this process becomes truly mysterious and where most people completely misunderstand what's happening to them. Just before this law fully activates in your favor, you'll often experience what appears to be the complete opposite of what you're trying to create. When you're working toward financial abundance, you might face unexpected expenses. When you're building a business, you might encounter a series of setbacks. When you're developing a relationship, you might experience conflict or distance. This isn't the universe working against you. It's actually the universe's way of testing whether you're ready for what you've been asking for. Every adversity that shows up during this crucial period carries within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, but you can only access that benefit if you don't allow the temporary difficulty to derail your persistence. When everything in your life seems to be falling apart, simultaneously, when multiple areas of stress converge at once, when you feel like you're being tested beyond your limits, this is actually the clearest sign that you're about to be born into a new level of your existence. The breakdown isn't random destruction, it's preparation for breakthrough. Life is essentially asking you, are you serious about this transformation, or were you just hoping it would be easy? The people who emerge victorious from these intense testing periods develop an internal strength and clarity that becomes unshakable. They've proven to themselves and to the universe that their commitment isn't dependent on external circumstances. They've demonstrated that their vision is stronger than their current reality, and that demonstration earns them access to possibilities that were previously unavailable. What's fascinating is that this testing process is actually perfectly calibrated to your current capacity. You'll never be given more than you can handle, but You will be given exactly enough pressure to force you to grow beyond your previous limitations. It's like a cosmic personal trainer that knows exactly how much weight you can lift and keeps adding just enough resistance to build your strength without breaking you. The internal shift happens when you stop interpreting these challenges as evidence that you should quit and start recognizing them as evidence that you're approaching your next level. When you can maintain your vision and continue your efforts even while everything around you seems chaotic, you develop what might be called breakthrough immunity, the ability to persist regardless of external circumstances. Now, I want to reveal to you the specific moment when this internal transformation becomes complete and how you can recognize when you've successfully passed through this final testing phase, because understanding this recognition can help you claim your victory even when it's still disguised as ongoing challenge. Write in the comments, "I welcome the test of my worthiness." The specific moment when this internal transformation becomes complete is marked by something that might surprise you. It's not when your external circumstances finally improve, but when you make a decision so definitive that it fundamentally changes your relationship with uncertainty. This is the moment when you stop hoping for your dreams to come true and start knowing they will, regardless of how long it takes or what obstacles appear. Along the way, most people think they've made decisions about what they want in life, but when you examine their behavior closely, you realize they've only made wishes. They say they want financial freedom, but when the first business setback occurs, they start looking for backup plans. They claim they want to transform their health, but when the initial motivation wears off, they gradually slip back into old patterns. They declare they want meaningful relationships, but when conflicts arise, they retreat into familiar patterns of avoidance or compromise. The difference between wanting and truly deciding is profound, and it's where most people unknowingly sabotage their own success. When you want something, you're still negotiating with the universe. You're essentially saying, "I'd like this to happen, but only if it's not too difficult, doesn't take too long, and doesn't require me to change too much." But when you make a real decision, the kind Emmet Fox recognized in every truly successful person, you're cutting off all escape routes and declaring your absolute commitment regardless of circumstances. This kind of decision creates what I call divine stubbornness, a state of being so committed to your outcome that external feedback becomes irrelevant to your persistence. You're no longer asking if you'll achieve your goal. You're only asking how and when. You stop interpreting setbacks as reasons to question your path and start viewing them as information about how to refine your approach. Your energy shifts from hoping and wishing to knowing and expecting. What makes this decision so powerful is that it fundamentally changes how you show up in the world. When you're operating from hope, you're tentative, constantly looking for signs that you should continue or evidence that you should quit. But when you're operating from decision, you become unshakable. You radiate a different kind of energy that attracts different responses from people and circumstances. Opportunities that were previously invisible become obvious. Resources that seemed unavailable suddenly appear. People who might have dismissed you before start taking you seriously. But here's where the universe's testing becomes most intense and most important. The moment you make this kind of definitive decision, life will immediately begin to test whether you really mean it. It's as if the universe is saying, "Oh, you think you've decided, do you? Let's see how committed you are when things get really challenging." And then everything that can go wrong often does go wrong all at once. This is the most crucial juncture in any transformation journey, because this is where true character is revealed and where most people fail. It's easy to maintain faith and persistence when everything is going smoothly, when you're seeing steady progress, when people are supporting your vision. But what happens when your bank account is empty? When people you trust start doubting your judgment, when every step forward seems to be followed by 2 steps backward? This is the universe's final examination, and it's designed to reveal whether your decision was authentic or just another wishful hope dressed up in confident language. The people who pass this test are those who understand that adversity isn't evidence they should quit. It's evidence they're approaching something significant enough that the universe wants to make sure they're worthy of it. Every failure during this period carries within it the seed of equivalent or greater benefit, but accessing that benefit requires you to maintain your decision even when logic suggests you should abandon it. When you can look at apparent defeat and still see eventual victory, when you can experience temporary loss and still feel grateful for what's coming, when you can face criticism and doubt while maintaining absolute certainty about your path, that's when you know your transformation is complete. Now, I want to share with you the remarkable changes that occur in your external reality once you've successfully demonstrated this level of unwavering commitment, because understanding these changes can help you recognize your own victories even when they're still manifesting. Write in the comments, "I have made my decision." The remarkable changes that occur in your external reality once you've demonstrated unwavering commitment reveal something that most people completely misunderstand about how manifestation actually works. You see, while thoughts are important and decisions are crucial, there's one element that actually serves as the command center for your creative power, and that's the emotional intensity you bring to your vision. Emmet Fox discovered something that modern neuroscience is now confirming. When desire is accompanied by genuine faith and intense emotion, your mind records this combination as a direct order to your subconscious, and your subconscious obeys with mechanical precision. It's not what you think about casually that creates your reality. And it's not what you say with your words, it's what you feel with authentic intensity that literally shapes the world around you. This is why positive thinking often fails to produce results for people. They're trying to think their way to success, but thinking without genuine emotional engagement is like trying to start a car without turning the key. The thoughts might be perfectly formed, the intentions might be crystal clear, but without that emotional spark, nothing activates. Your emotion is literally the ignition system for your creative power. Most people experience emotions as things that happen to them. They feel happy when something good occurs, sad when something disappointing happens, frustrated when obstacles appear. But successful people understand that emotion can be consciously generated and directed. They don't wait for external circumstances to create the feelings they want. They create the feelings first and then allow those feelings to attract the corresponding circumstances. When you can genuinely feel grateful for abundance that hasn't yet manifested, when you can experience the emotion of success before you've achieved the external markers of success, when you can feel confident and powerful even while your current reality might suggest otherwise, that's when you're operating as a conscious creator rather than a passive reactor to circumstances. But here's where this gets truly powerful, and it's something that separates temporary motivation from lasting transformation. Emotional persistence is to character what coal is to fire. It's the fuel that keeps your creative power burning even when external conditions would normally extinguish it. Anyone can feel excited about their goals when things are going well, but can you maintain that emotional intensity when you're facing rejection, setbacks, and apparent failure? The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't those who never experience negative emotions or challenging circumstances. They're the ones who have developed the ability to generate and sustain empowering emotions regardless of what's happening around them. They understand that their emotional state is their most valuable asset, and they guard it as carefully as someone might guard their most precious possession. This creates a fascinating dynamic where your external world begins to reorganize itself around your sustained emotional state. When you consistently generate feelings of confidence, abundance, and expectation, you literally become a magnet for experiences that match those emotions. It's not wishful thinking. It's the result of your heightened awareness, improved decision-making, and the different energy you're projecting into every interaction. What makes emotional persistence so incredibly powerful is that it allows you to maintain your creative momentum even during periods when logic would suggest you should quit. While your rational mind might be calculating reasons to give up, your emotional conviction keeps you moving forward, taking actions, making connections, and staying open to possibilities that your logical mind might dismiss as unrealistic. This is how people accomplish things that seem impossible to outside observers. They're not operating from logic alone. They're drawing power from an emotional certainty that transcends current circumstances. They feel their success so intensely that it becomes more real to them than their temporary challenges. Nothing can resist a mind that persists with this kind of faith-backed, emotionally charged, burning desire. Now, I want to explore with you the specific emotional states that create the most powerful manifestation effects and how you can cultivate these states deliberately, because mastering your emotional frequency might be the most practical skill you can develop for transforming any area of your life. Write in the comments, "My emotions create my reality." The specific emotional states that create the most powerful manifestation effects reveal something that might initially seem counterintuitive. The very moments when you're tempted to feel most discouraged are often the precise moments when you should be feeling most hopeful. There's an ancient principle that Emmet Fox understood deeply. Just before dawn, the darkness is always densest. This isn't poetic metaphor. It's a practical recognition pattern that can completely transform how you interpret the challenges in your life. When you finally make the decision to get completely serious about your dreams, when you commit with the kind of intensity we've been discussing, something almost predictable happens. Everything in your life seems to become more complicated simultaneously. Your relationships might become strained, unexpected expenses might appear, opportunities you were counting on might fall through, and people around you might start questioning your judgment more intensely than ever before. Most people interpret this intensification as evidence that they're making a mistake or that the universe is working against them. They think, maybe this isn't meant to be, maybe I should have stayed in my comfort zone. But what's actually happening is far more profound and encouraging than it appears. These obstacles aren't random punishments or signs that you should retreat. They're the systematic purging of your old identity to make space for the new version of yourself that's about to emerge. Think about it this way. If you're going to step into a significantly larger version of your life, you can't carry all the limitations, fears, and patterns that defined your previous existence. Something has to give way. The universe isn't creating arbitrary difficulties. It's creating precise challenges designed to burn away everything about your old self that would be incompatible with your new reality. This is why the emotional state of gratitude becomes so crucial during these intense periods, when you can maintain appreciation for what appears to be going wrong, recognizing it as preparation for what's about to go right. You align yourself with the creative force rather than fighting against it. You're essentially telling the universe, I trust this process even when I don't understand it. But here's where this gets really remarkable, and it's something that can completely shift your perspective on every apparent setback you've ever experienced. Everything that seems like failure today is actually carrying within it the genetic code of your next victory. Look back at your own life honestly. How many times did you think everything was over, only to discover later that what felt like an ending was actually just the beginning of something better? That job you lost that devastated you at the time, did it force you to develop skills or pursue opportunities that ultimately led to something more fulfilling? That relationship that ended and broke your heart, did it teach you about your own worth and prepare you for a healthier connection? That business venture that failed, Did it give you the experience and resilience you needed for your next, more successful attempt? What hurts today is literally molding you for tomorrow. What seems like loss is often forcing you to evolve beyond limitations you didn't even know you had. What appears to be rejection is frequently protection from situations that would have kept you smaller than you're meant to be. The universe has a way of closing doors that would lead to less than your highest potential, while simultaneously preparing you for doors that will lead to more than you've ever imagined. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't those who avoid setbacks. They're the ones who develop the emotional intelligence to recognize setbacks as setup for comeback. They understand that every apparent failure is actually curriculum in the school of success, teaching them lessons they couldn't learn any other way, and building character they couldn't develop in comfort. Now, I want to reveal to you the most profound realization that emerges from this understanding, because when you truly grasp this next principle, you'll never again feel like a victim of your circumstances, and you'll begin to see every challenge as evidence that something magnificent is being prepared for you. Write in the comments, "My setbacks are setups for my comeback." The most profound realization that emerges from understanding this pattern is that you're never actually struggling alone, even when it feels like the entire world has turned against you. There's an invisible force working silently in your favor, not some mystical concept, but an intelligent energy that Emmet Fox recognized in every person who achieved something meaningful. This force has been observing you, analyzing the depth of your faith, measuring the consistency of your perseverance, and preparing to open doors at precisely the right moment. You've probably experienced glimpses of this force without recognizing it for what it was. Those moments when you desperately needed a solution and somehow the right person appeared in your life. Those times when you were about to give up and suddenly received exactly the encouragement you needed to continue. Those instances when resources became available just when you thought you'd exhausted all possibilities. These weren't coincidences. They were this invisible force responding to your persistent efforts and unwavering commitment. What makes this force so remarkable is its intelligence. It doesn't respond to casual wishes or temporary enthusiasm. It responds to demonstrated consistency over time. It's watching to see if you'll maintain your vision when the initial excitement wears off. It's observing whether you'll continue taking action when the results aren't immediately visible. It's measuring your character during the times when no one else is watching and no external rewards are motivating you. When you stay firm in the storm, when you maintain your practices, protect your mental state, and continue moving toward your goals despite apparent setbacks, this force recognizes your commitment and begins to orchestrate circumstances in your favor. The opening comes not because you got lucky, but because you earned it through constant action and unwavering faith. You demonstrated that you're ready to handle what you've been asking for. But here's what's truly fascinating about how this process works, and it brings us back to something fundamental that most people never fully grasp. Your mind operates as the most fertile ground that exists in the universe. Every single thought you entertain is essentially a seed being planted in this incredibly responsive soil, and your mind doesn't have the ability to distinguish between thoughts you want to manifest and thoughts you're simply afraid might happen. This is where most people unconsciously sabotage the very force that's trying to help them. They spend their days planting mental seeds of fear, doubt, and scarcity, then wonder why their external reality keeps producing experiences that match those internal plantings. They worry about not having enough money, and their mind obediently creates circumstances that confirm that fear. They imagine worst-case scenarios in their relationships, and somehow those scenarios start manifesting. They focus on everything that could go wrong with their health, their career, their dreams, and then feel victimized when those very problems appear in their lives. Your mind doesn't judge the quality of the thoughts you're planting. It simply germinates whatever you give it with consistency and emotional intensity. It's like the most faithful gardener imaginable, tending to every seed you plant with equal dedication, whether those seeds will produce flowers or weeds. This is why becoming conscious of your mental diet is so crucial. You're not just passively thinking thoughts. You're actively programming your future experiences. The people who seem to have incredible luck or who appear to attract opportunities effortlessly aren't operating under different universal laws. They're simply more intentional about what they're planting in their mental garden. They've learned to catch themselves when they start entertaining limiting thoughts, and they consciously redirect their mental energy toward outcomes they actually want to experience. This invisible force we discussed is actually responding to the overall pattern of your mental plantings. When the majority of your thoughts align with faith, possibility, and expectation of good outcomes, this force has clear instructions about what kind of reality to help you create. But when your mental garden is overgrown with worry, doubt, and fearful projections, the force is receiving mixed signals and can't effectively assist you. Now I want to share with you the specific practices that can help you become truly masterful at directing this invisible force in your favor. Because understanding how to plant the right mental seeds with the right emotional intensity can literally transform every area of your life. Write in the comments, "I plant seeds of success daily." The specific practices for directing this invisible force in your favor begin with understanding something that Emmet Fox emphasized repeatedly. It's not about what you think once in a moment of inspiration, but what you repeat consistently every single day. Your subconscious mind operates like the most sophisticated recording device ever created, and it accepts any thought that's repeated with genuine emotion, unwavering belief, and absolute constancy. Most people approach their mental development like they're trying to change a radio station. They tune into positive, empowering thoughts for a few minutes, then spend the rest of their day letting their mind drift back to whatever random frequency it happens to pick up. But your deep mind doesn't respond to occasional positive thinking any more than your body would respond to occasional exercise. It responds to rhythm, to consistent patterns, to the emotional fire that accompanies your repeated thoughts and mental images. This is why affirmations often fail for people who approach them superficially. They repeat words without feeling, recite phrases without conviction, and then wonder why nothing changes. But when you understand that repetition with genuine emotion is literally how you reprogram your internal operating system, everything shifts. Each time you consciously choose an empowering thought and feel it deeply, you're strengthening neural pathways that support your success while weakening the old patterns that supported limitation. The transformation happens through what I call sacred repetition, the practice of deliberately installing new mental software through consistent, emotionally charged focus. When you wake up each morning and immediately direct your attention toward thoughts that align with your highest vision, when you end each day by reviewing your goals with gratitude and expectation, when you catch yourself throughout the day drifting into old patterns and consciously redirect toward empowering alternatives, you're essentially becoming a programmer of your own destiny. But there's something even more powerful than mental repetition alone, and it's what separates those who achieve moderate success from those who accomplish the extraordinary. It's what Emmet Fox observed in every person who left a lasting impact on the world. They all possessed what he called a burning purpose, a cause so compelling, so deeply meaningful, that it became literally impossible for them to abandon it. Nothing can resist a human being who has decided to live for something that burns inside them with unquenchable intensity. This isn't about having goals or objectives. This is about discovering a mission that lifts you when everything hurts, pushes you forward when you feel broken, and guides you even in the densest fog of uncertainty. When you're connected to this level of purpose, you stop being motivated by external circumstances and start being driven by internal fire. Every great achiever throughout history had this in common, a purpose so clear, so strong, so visceral, that abandoning it would have felt like betraying their very soul. They weren't working towards something they wanted, they were expressing something they were. Their purpose wasn't separate from their identity, it had become their identity. This is why they could persist when others gave up, why they could maintain faith when evidence suggested failure, why they could continue creating when the world told them to stop. The remarkable thing about discovering your burning purpose is that it completely transforms your relationship with obstacles and setbacks. When you're operating from shallow motivation, every challenge feels like evidence that you should quit. But when you're driven by authentic purpose, challenges become fuel for your fire. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this to become stronger and more capable?" This burning purpose acts like an internal compass that keeps you oriented toward your true north, regardless of external storms. It's what allows some people to work for years without recognition, to continue believing in their vision when everyone else thinks they're foolish, to maintain their standards and values even when compromise would be easier. Now, I want to explore with you how to identify and cultivate this burning purpose in your own life. Because once you connect with this deeper level of motivation, persistence stops being something you have to force and becomes something you couldn't stop, even if you wanted to. Write in the comments, "I am discovering my burning purpose." The process of identifying and cultivating your burning purpose reveals something that might fundamentally challenge how you've been approaching your goals. Most people are trying to attract what they desire, but the universe actually operates on a different principle entirely. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. This distinction isn't just philosophical, it's the practical difference between those who achieve lasting success and those who remain perpetually frustrated. Before you can achieve something significant, you must first become the person who is capable of achieving it. The result is always a consequence of who you've become, never the cause of it. You don't obtain wealth and then feel deserving of it. You must first develop the inner sense of deserving, and then wealth becomes the natural expression of that internal state. You don't achieve confidence by accomplishing goals. You accomplish goals by assuming the identity of someone who is already confident. This creates a fascinating paradox that most people never resolve. They're waiting for external circumstances to change so they can feel different, but external circumstances are actually waiting for them to feel different so they can change. It's like standing in front of a mirror and waiting for your reflection to smile first. The image in the mirror will never change until you change first. When Emmet Fox studied successful people, he discovered that they all went through this identity transformation before their external success became visible. They stopped seeing themselves as people who were trying to become successful and started seeing themselves as successful people who were simply allowing that success to manifest in physical form. They assumed the identity of their desired outcome and then lived from that identity consistently, regardless of their current circumstances. This assumption of identity isn't about pretending or living in fantasy. It's about recognizing and activating the version of yourself that already exists at the level you're trying to reach. The capable, confident, successful version of you isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to uncover and express. Every quality you admire in others, every capability you wish you had, every characteristic you associate with success, all of that already exists within you, waiting to be activated. But here's where this identity transformation becomes most crucial, and it's the exact point where most people abandon their dreams just when they're closest to achieving them. There comes a moment in every significant journey when you're asked to step fully into this new identity without having the external proof that you deserve it. You're called to act as the person you're becoming, before the world recognizes you as that person. This is the threshold that Emmet Fox warned about, the precise point where most people give up just before their triumph. They've been working, growing, developing, and transforming, but when the moment comes to step completely into their new identity without guarantees, they hesitate. They retreat back to the familiar discomfort of their old self rather than embrace the unknown territory of their emerging self. What if the next decision you make, the next action you take, the next thought you choose is the one that changes everything? What if you're literally one step away from the breakthrough you've been working toward, but you don't recognize it because it requires you to show up as someone you've never been before? This is the moment when your character is truly tested, not by external obstacles, but by your willingness to become who you need to be. The people who break through this threshold are those who understand that feeling ready is not a prerequisite for action. They act as their future self even when they don't feel qualified. They make decisions from their desired identity even when their current circumstances suggest they should wait. They step into their power before they have a proof that they deserve it. Now, I want to reveal to you the specific moment when this identity transformation becomes complete and how you can recognize when you've successfully crossed this threshold. Because understanding this recognition can prevent you from giving up just when your greatest victory is within reach. Write in the comments, "I already am who I'm becoming." The specific moment when this identity transformation becomes complete is marked by something that might surprise you. It's not when you finally feel ready or when you've gathered enough evidence to justify your confidence. It's when you realize that success doesn't send advance notice before it arrives. It doesn't warn you when it's about to show up in your life. Success simply appears, often after periods of intense doubt, after emotional pain, after everything in your life seems chaotic, just when you're about to say, "I can't take any more." This is one of the most tragic ironies of human achievement. The moment when people are most tempted to give up, when they feel like they've exhausted all possibilities, when they can't see any evidence that their efforts are working, when everyone around them suggests it's time to be realistic, is often the exact moment when they're closest to their breakthrough. You might be one step away from everything you've been working toward, but you can't see it because transformation often happens in the invisible realm before it manifests in the physical world. What makes this so challenging is that your logical mind interprets the intensity of this final phase as evidence that you're failing, when it's actually evidence that you're succeeding. It's like being in labor. The most intense contractions don't mean something is going wrong. They mean the birth is imminent. But if you don't understand this process, you might give up during the very moments when you should be pushing harder. Emmet Fox understood something profound about the nature of temporary defeat that most people never grasp. When something appears to go wrong in your life, when doors seem to close, when opportunities disappear, this often means something significantly better is being prepared for you, but only if you persist through the apparent setback. The universe has a way of removing smaller opportunities to make space for larger ones, but you have to maintain your faith during the transition period when it looks like you're losing rather than gaining. This brings us to something even more fundamental that you need to understand about your own potential. You're not here by accident. The dreams that keep calling to you, the visions that won't leave you alone, the goals that make your heart race with possibility, these aren't random fantasies or cruel jokes played by your imagination. They're signals, codes, messages from the deepest part of your being that are essentially shouting, "This is for you." Your desire for something greater isn't an illusion, it's intelligence. It's your authentic self communicating with your conscious mind about what you're actually capable of achieving. Emmet Fox repeatedly emphasized that what the mind of man can conceive and believe, he can achieve. And this isn't motivational rhetoric. It's a recognition of how human potential actually works. Your mind operates as a factory of realities, constantly producing thoughts, images, and possibilities. But here's what's remarkable. You can only imagine possibilities that already exist within your potential. You can't conceive of something that's completely outside your capability to achieve. If you can see it in your mind, if you can feel it in your heart, if you can imagine it with clarity and emotion, that's proof that you already carry the seed of that reality within you. Think about this from a different perspective. A bird doesn't dream of flying because it's cruel fate. It dreams of flying because it was designed to fly. The desire reveals the capability. Your deepest longings aren't tormenting you with impossible dreams. They're pointing you toward your authentic destiny. The very fact that you can envision a different life, a greater impact, a more fulfilling existence, is evidence that those possibilities are encoded in your spiritual DNA. Now, I want to share with you the final piece of this puzzle, the ultimate recognition that can transform every challenge you're facing right now into a stepping stone toward the extraordinary life that's waiting for you. Write in the comments, "I was born for greatness." The final piece of this puzzle reveals something that can completely transform your relationship with every obstacle you're currently facing. Every great achievement throughout history has encountered what Emmet Fox called the last barrier, an invisible wall that serves as the ultimate separator between those who dream and those who achieve. This barrier isn't made of external circumstances or practical limitations. It's constructed entirely of adversity, and understanding its true purpose can change everything. This adversity isn't random punishment from an indifferent universe. It's not evidence that you're on the wrong path or that success isn't meant for you. It's actually the most sophisticated test imaginable, designed to ask your soul one fundamental question. Do you really want this transformation, or do you only want it when it's comfortable and easy? Before allowing you to step into the success you've been working toward, life subjects you to what feels like a severe examination to determine whether you're truly ready to handle what you've been asking for. Think about it this way. If success came without this final test, if achievement required no character development, if transformation happened without any resistance, then everyone would accomplish their dreams without ever developing the wisdom, strength, or integrity necessary to sustain those accomplishments. The adversity isn't trying to stop you. It's trying to prepare you. It's ensuring that when you finally break through, you'll have the internal foundation necessary to maintain and expand upon your success. This last barrier reveals who you really are beneath all the surface-level motivations and temporary enthusiasms. When everything is going well, when people are supporting your vision, when progress is visible, it's relatively easy to maintain faith and continue taking action. But what happens when you're facing criticism from people you respect? What happens when your resources are depleted and your timeline has been shattered? What happens when you've tried everything you can think of and nothing seems to be working? These moments of ultimate testing strip away everything superficial about your motivation and reveal whether your commitment runs deeper than circumstances. They force you to discover reserves of strength you didn't know you possessed, and to develop a quality of faith that doesn't depend on external evidence. When you can maintain your vision and continue your efforts even under these extreme conditions, you prove to yourself and to the universe that you're ready for a level of success that can't be taken away by changing circumstances. But here's the most profound realization that emerges from understanding this process. And it's something that can instantly shift your entire perspective on where you are in your journey right now. Everything you've been searching for, everything you've been working toward, everything you've been hoping to attract or achieve, it's already inside you. That's not inspirational metaphor. That's the most practical truth you can understand about how success actually works. Your mind isn't a tool that generates success from nothing. It's a sophisticated channel that manifests what already exists within your deepest potential. You don't need more external motivation, more techniques, or more strategies. What you need is unwavering faith in the invisible reality that you can't touch yet, but that's already vibrating with you at the frequency of your authentic self. The version of you that's capable of achieving everything you desire isn't someone you need to become. It's someone you need to remember. All the qualities you associate with success, all the capabilities you wish you had, all the confidence and clarity you think you're lacking, these exist right now within your consciousness, waiting to be activated and expressed. This is why affirmations work. When they're done authentically, why visualization creates real results when it's practiced with genuine feeling, and why persistence eventually pays off even when logic suggests it shouldn't. You're not trying to create something from nothing. You're aligning with what's already true about you at the deepest level. Now, I want to reveal to you the specific moment when this inner recognition becomes so strong that nothing external can shake it. Because when you reach this level of inner knowing, your success stops being a goal you're chasing and becomes an identity you're expressing. Write in the comments, "I recognize my inner success." The specific moment when this inner recognition becomes unshakable occurs when you understand something that Emmet Fox emphasized as the most powerful psychological principle ever discovered. Your subconscious mind accepts any order given to it with absolute faith. It doesn't question the validity of your commands, doesn't analyze whether you deserve what you're programming, and doesn't wait for external permission to begin implementing your instructions. It simply obeys with mechanical precision whatever you consistently tell it with genuine conviction. Most people unknowingly give their subconscious devastating orders throughout their day. They repeatedly tell themselves, "I'm not good enough, I can't afford this, nothing ever works out for me," and then wonder why their external reality keeps confirming these limiting beliefs. They're essentially programming their most powerful internal ally to work against them instead of for them. But when you understand that you can consciously direct this incredible force, everything changes. And here's the most powerful order you can ever give your subconscious mind. I already am what I desire. Not I will become, not I hope to be, but I already am. When this recognition becomes engraved so deeply in your subconscious that you feel it at the cellular level, something remarkable happens. You stop needing to force outcomes and start allowing them to unfold naturally. Your mind automatically begins making decisions that align with this new identity. Your emotions start reflecting the confidence of someone who has already achieved what you're working toward. Your actions become the natural expression of someone who knows their success is inevitable rather than someone who's desperately hoping it might happen. You shift from pushing against resistance to flowing with possibility. This transformation reveals something that Emmet Fox observed in every person who accomplished something extraordinary. Within each human being, there exists a dormant power that quite literally can move mountains. And this power awakens the moment you stop seeing yourself as separate from your success. The power isn't something you need to acquire or develop. It's something you need to recognize and activate. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you have a choice about what you see. Most people see someone who is struggling to have success, someone who is working hard to get somewhere they're not, someone who is hoping that someday their efforts will pay off. But what if you could train yourself to see someone who already is success and is now simply walking toward its physical manifestation? This isn't about denying your current circumstances or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about recognizing that your external reality is always catching up to your internal reality. And when you consistently hold the internal experience of being successful, your external world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that inner conviction. The people who achieve extraordinary things all go through this fundamental shift in self-perception. They stop feeling like they're trying to become someone different and start feeling like they're simply allowing their authentic self to be expressed more fully. They don't give up, because giving up would mean abandoning who they really are. They don't doubt anymore, because doubt becomes incompatible with their core identity. They don't look back, because they're too excited about where they're going. This dormant power that exists within you has been waiting your entire life for you to recognize it and give it permission to operate through you. It's been there during every moment of doubt, every period of struggle, every time you felt like giving up. It's the part of you that knows your success is inevitable, even when your logical mind is calculating reasons why it might not happen. Now, I want to explore with you what happens when this power becomes fully activated and how you can accelerate this awakening process, because once this internal recognition reaches critical mass, your external transformation becomes not just possible, but absolutely unstoppable. Write in the comments, "My power is awakening." What happens when this power becomes fully activated reveals something that can completely transform how you interpret every challenge you're currently facing. Every significant transformation in human history has required what Emmet Fox called crossing the fire. And if you're going through intense challenges right now, if everything in your life feels like it's being tested simultaneously, that's not evidence that you're failing. That's evidence that you're closer to your breakthrough than you've ever been. The fire doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to refine you. Think about the most valuable materials in the world. Gold doesn't achieve its lustrous shine without being subjected to extreme temperatures that burn away all impurities. Steel doesn't develop its incredible strength without being exposed to intense pressure that eliminates weakness. And your character, your inner power, your authentic success identity can't be forged without challenges that force you to discover capabilities you didn't know you possessed. When you understand this principle, every obstacle becomes evidence of your proximity to success rather than proof of your distance from it. The intensity of what you're experiencing isn't proportional to how far you have to go. It's proportional to how transformational your breakthrough is going to be. The universe doesn't waste energy refining people who aren't destined for something significant. This fire you're walking through is actually the final stage of a process that's been happening beneath the surface of your consciousness for much longer than you realize. Every decision to persist when quitting seemed logical. Every moment you chose faith over fear. Every time you took action despite uncertainty. All of that has been building momentum toward this culminating moment when everything you've been working for finally breaks through into physical reality. But here's the ultimate secret that Emmet Fox discovered after studying thousands of successful people. And it's something that can instantly shift your entire relationship with your goals and dreams. You already are what you're looking for, the success you think you need to achieve, the confidence you believe you need to develop, the abundance you imagine you need to attract. All of it already exists within you, waiting not to be created, but to be remembered and expressed. You don't need to become someone fundamentally different to have the life you desire. You need to remember who you already are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the doubt, beneath all the stories you've been told about your limitations. You are already a creator, already an architect of possibility, already an unstoppable force that temporarily forgot its own power. This recognition changes everything because it shifts you from the exhausting energy of trying to become worthy of your dreams to the natural energy of expressing what's already true about you. Instead of forcing outcomes, you start allowing them. Instead of chasing success, you start embodying it. Instead of hoping for transformation, you start living from your transformed identity. When you act, think, and vibrate like someone who has already arrived at their destination, your external world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that internal reality. This isn't positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is aligning with the fundamental truth of who you are and allowing that truth to be expressed through every aspect of your life. The challenges you're facing, the fire you're walking through, the tests that feel overwhelming, all of this is simply the final clearing away of everything that isn't authentically you. What emerges from this process isn't a new person, it's the real you that was always there, now fully awakened and ready to create the extraordinary life you were born to live. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, you're part of a very special group of people, those who are serious about transformation, who understand that real change happens, not through quick fixes, but through deep understanding. You've just absorbed principles that most people will never encounter, insights that can genuinely reshape how you approach every challenge and opportunity in your life. This is exactly the kind of content I'm passionate about sharing here on this channel. Not surface-level motivation that fades by tomorrow, but profound truths that stay with you and continue working in your consciousness long after you've finished watching. If this resonates with you, if you found value in these teachings from Emmet Fox, I'd love for you to subscribe and join this community of people who are committed to living from their highest potential. And if you made it all the way to the end, I want to hear from you. Write in the comments. This message was meant for me. It's always incredible to connect with viewers who are genuinely engaged with this material, who understand that we're not just talking about success, we're talking about awakening to who you really are. If this content touched something deep inside you, if you felt that recognition of truth that comes when you hear something your soul already knows, a simple like on the video helps more people discover these principles. There's something powerful about knowing we're all walking this path of transformation together. There's a video right here that dives even deeper into how to maintain this inner knowing when external circumstances are trying to convince you otherwise. Click and continue with me over there, because your journey of remembering who you really are is just beginning.